What's up, everybody? I missed y'all. Welcome back to Night TV.
It's not that I want you here. Yeah. It's not about the way you stare into my eyes.
Let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? He's not exactly in the room, but y'all get it. Where have I been? I already told y'all in my last video, but in case you missed it, a lot has been going on, okay? It's been hard out here. I was in the process of moving jobs. I was doing some traveling. It was a lot going on, okay? And I had to take a break because if my content is not going to be A1, I don't want to put it out there, period. Okay, so I decided to take a break until I get my mind right. I resigned from my job. It was like an impromptu decision. I told y'all we're not doing anything that we don't want to do this year. If it's not for us, then we're not doing it. So I made a decision at lunchtime. I walked away in case you missed that last video where I detailed it in full. So go back and watch my drive with me, my Hilton Head getaway video, and you'll get all of the details. But that's where I've been. Like I said, I don't want to put content out there that's subpar, that's not A1. So at the risk of doing y'all a disservice, I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a break and I'm going to come back refreshed and I feel better. I love my job and we're rolling. Anyway, moving on. Today we're going to do a story time about the time we had to fight, well, actually the times we had to fight inmates who had gotten inebriated off of hand sanitizer. Now you might be wondering how you can get drunk off of hand sanitizer, and you might not be wondering, but there is a way, okay? No, they don't just drink it in a gel-like substance that it is originally in. There is a way that they can turn it into a liquid. And so today we're going to do a science experiment, okay? Let's see if I can maneuver this with my tiny mic in my hand. Okay, so here is a cup of salt, okay? I put the slightest amount because I'm not wasting my salt, but this is salt, if you guys can see, okay? When you add hand sanitizer to this, it's going to instantly turn to liquid. So let me show you. As you can see, it's just pure salt, nothing added to it, okay? Here is the hand sanitizer. Add a few drops. And now, as you can see, it's no longer gel like it normally is. It's just liquid, okay? And so inmates would do that and they would make themselves an alcoholic beverage. So imagine this with salt in it turns to liquid and it makes an alcoholic beverage. But this is not just any kind of drunk. This is not that kind of I'm going to sit in the corner and be quiet or go to sleep type of drunk. This is I'm going to get belligerent and want to fight type of drunk, okay? It almost makes them monsterish, and I'm not even being dramatic when I say that. Like, it takes them to an entirely different level. So here is the story time. Back when I was still on shift, so in my early years of being on shift, we had what's called A, B, and C cards. Now it's like D, E, C, D, and E cards, but back then it was A, B, and C. A and B were the shift officers who actually worked the buildings, the yards, that type of things. And C card was, and sometimes is still, the people who did like transportation. They took them to clinic runs, they took them to the hospital, that type of thing. Ideally, you know, when it wasn't short staffed. So I was on B card. I was on B2 first, which is night shift, and then I eventually moved to B1, which is day shift. And while on day shift, back then we used to have 3 and 4 day weekends. But right around the time when this story time happened is right when they started giving us every other weekend off. So instead of working 2 weekends back to back and then being off 2 weekends back to back, we alternated the weekends. Of course, we were excited for our weekends off. We were ready after, you know, a long weekend the prior week. You know, we were ready to be off. But it seemed like every single time it was our turn to be off for the weekend, something crazy would go down. So when they started with this hand sanitizer, it was always on the weekend that we were supposed to be off. So the first time it happened, it was with this girl let's call her Julia, okay? Julia decided that she was going to drink the hand sanitizer salt mixture. She comes to the back door, and the back door is just the separation point between the yard and the administration building, okay? She comes through the back door, and she just looks wild. She just looks like something out of a movie almost. It was like her eyes were bugged out. She was yelling incoherently. She was violent. So, she's being escorted back there, and I was a corporal by that time. So I think I was working the back door the first time this happened. And when you work the back door, like if inmates go on visitation, you have to go and strip search them. You have to just make sure that the flow of inmate traffic is not, I guess, going where it's not supposed to be. That's the best way that I can describe it to someone who doesn't know the job. So they had a gate that separates the front with the control room and the warden's office and everything, and the door. You don't want them going out the door. So I would just patrol that area and make sure, they were going to medical how they were supposed to. They were going into visitation rooms, or they were going to their programs. Your job is just to control the flow of traffic, okay? She comes back there, and automatically I can tell something is about to go down. My captain is up front in operations, and in operations, they just like take count. They just sit up there and just make sure that the prison is running the way that it's supposed to run on any given day. And you'll normally find like a captain, lieutenant. They sit in operations for the majority of the day. So she was up there. My lieutenant was walking back and forth. We didn't have a very traditionally or conventionally professional shift. We were like a family, so we would just walk back and forth. We would talk, we would do different things. And my lieutenant, God, oh my God, bless her heart, I loved her so much. She was just the funniest thing in the world. But she did not cut corners with the inmates, and she would tell them what she had to tell them, and she had that reputation. And she was like this short, but she was mighty. She didn't play. And so we were back there, and when they brought her, and I could hear on the radio that they were bringing her up and that something was in her system, and we figured it was drugs. We didn't think of anything as remotely wild as some hand sanitizer and salt. So there is a staff desk at the back door, okay? The desk is right next to the back door, and then right next to that is the entranceway to medical. So they get her into the entrance to medical. She goes to the back to the sick call room, and she's just mumbling, and then she starts yelling, babbling incoherently. So I'm looking, and then my best friend, she was a sergeant. She still is a sergeant there, but she came to the back. I think she was a first responder at the time. I might have been a first responder too, but again, she was out there on the yard, so I was at the back door. We go to the back. We're laughing amongst ourselves because it's like there's always something, but this is something that we've never seen before. So of course, it's like that nervous laugh, like, oh crap, what we about to walk into. So we walk back there, and we find her. She's like splayed out. They have a mattress out there on the floor, and she's like splayed out on that mattress. And so she's like moving around like a fish trying to get off the mattress. They're holding her legs at that point, and somebody else has her arms, okay? By the time I got back there was a group of maybe 4 or 5 of us. She's moving, she's scratching at people, she's biting at people, she's trying to grab the radio, and she successfully grabbed the radio, because at that point we were clipping the radios, and then we had the earpiece. So she's grabbing that thing. She managed to pull the earpiece out of my friend's ear, and so I'm holding her legs at that point, because this girl is stronger than an ox on whatever she's hyped up on. We still didn't know at the time what it was. We're holding her down. My friend got the arms. I got the doggone legs. My lieutenant is in the middle. This girl is like almost overpowering the 3 of us, right? So somebody comes back there, because inmates, you know, you hear this whole stigma of, oh, you a snitch, you don't snitch in prison, but they gonna snitch on you, especially the women, okay? They gonna tell you exactly what's going on, especially an old head. Like, if you get an old head and you catch the right old head who's not with all of that stuff, who just want to do their time in peace, especially like a lifer, they gonna tell. So one of the lifers came back there and she tells us what it was. So at this point, everybody's like in disbelief. So my lieutenant, I remember, she gets up and she takes the hand sanitizer and she asks for like a salt packet. She puts it in a cup and she shows us how automatically that stuff separated. So all of us is like, you know, what the heck, but we don't have time to get our Bill Nye on because we got this belligerent inmate. So she's punching, she's kicking. We take her in the bathroom. We finally managed to get her in there, and we have to strip search her to make sure that she doesn't have anything else on her, because at this point she's going to lockup. So here is the thing about lockup. Lockup is not in that building. It's not even on the yard. You have to go either through the little back entrance down the stairs and get through that gate, and then walk them all the way around to the building where we call the reception and evaluation area. That's locked behind a separate gate. It's actually a different address. They call it a different address than the prison itself, because, you know, when we do the location codes, there are two different locations, because lockup is kind of in the distance. It's not a thing where we can just walk you around and lock you up in a cell. No, we have to get you down these stairs. We have to walk you around. We have to get buzzed through 3 different doors, 4 if you're counting the door to lockup, to get them in there. So we're fighting this girl. We're kicking. I mean, she's kicking at us. We're trying to push her to the point where she's compliant, because she's just doing the utmost, you know, and we're still bewildered at the fact that these inmates have figured out how to make alcohol by separating hand sanitizer with salt. Like, it's mind-blowing at this point. So I remember we're fighting her, and my friend and I, we're in the back, we're laughing to ourselves because my lieutenant is making all of these offhanded comments, and we finally get her through to the door, the lockup doors. We finally get her in, and we're trying to strip her out yet again to make sure she doesn't have anything on her and to change her uniform. And we have to do what's called a forced cell report, because we use of force, because at this point we can't just say, okay, you go in your cell, Julia. She's not going to do that. You know, she wants war at this time. She wants blood, because she is drunk out of her mind. And so we finally get her in there. I got the camera. We're looking at her, and she's just, we have to record this because, again, this is not a normal lockup situation. You know, we couldn't get the handcuffs on her. We couldn't take them off of her. So we just had to like really push her in that room and record her movements so we can put it on that report. But that was the first time. You know, I hate to say that hers was uneventful. Although it wasn't, it was, because she didn't do what this next inmate did. Okay, she didn't do as much as this next inmate did. Okay, so that was a Sunday. The next time we come back to briefing is on, no, what was it? That wasn't a Sunday. I'm sorry. That was a Thursday. The next time we come back to briefing is the following Monday. And my captain is briefing everybody on what happened, you know, the events that we went through and how we finally got her to lock up. My friend and I, we were frontline supervisors, so we're standing in the front, and I'm looking at the officers that are behind. Well, I guess they're in front of us, however you want to put it, because like it was 2 lines. They would be that way, and then we would be this way facing them. And you know, I can see them as confused as we were, wondering if they were going to be going through the same thing that we went through, because when you're on those housing units, it's you and a bunch of other inmates, and a lot of times you have 2 sides and you're by yourself. So before they started making us lock the doors, those doors would be open, and officers were getting assaulted. You know, that's always happened. They always knew that that was a risk, but the risk began to intensify when these inmates figured out that there was a new way to get drunk, because back then they was just drinking buck. They would make that, they would let the fruit ferment and they would use that water and they would make them some wine. That was how they used to do it. You know, it wasn't that sanitary, and I'm sure it wasn't that appealing or that appetizing, but you know, it gave you a good old nice normal drunk, and you was good. And if you ain't get caught, you know, that's how you celebrated the weekend. But no, these new age inmates, they figured out the crazy way to start doing things, and they would drink. And do you know how dangerous this has to be to put this in your system? And I mean, look how big this is. So what happened was they started going into different officers' bags, and they would take out the hand sanitizer and they would keep it, especially those who would clean the office and stuff. You had to make sure that you had somebody really, really trustworthy. And you know, it's crazy to say a trustworthy inmate, because an inmate is an inmate is an inmate, but there are some who really, like I said, they just want to do their time and get on through. So you know, you had to be really picky, but some officers still had their favorites. They still had people that they could rely on, and those people might not have been the most trustworthy. I know I had one. That was my girl, but she was still the fur off a dog if you let her. And I knew that, and so at that point I had to start changing things. I had to start cleaning my own office, because I did not want to be responsible for nobody taking my hand sanitizer and doing what they did. Because imagine me by myself trying to control a belligerent inmate. And although I wasn't working the buildings as much, sometimes I did still work the buildings, you know, as a corporal. So you know, it was just all about being smart. But everybody don't think like that. You know, you still got your corrupt ones, you still got your ones who just like a challenge. They're gluttons for punishment. That wasn't me. This wasn't that. So at the risk of rambling, let me move on. So the next time we were supposed to be off, which would be the weekend after the following weekend, that's when we were supposed to be off again. So it happens again. And it's almost like history repeating itself, because everybody was in the same spots. I was at the back door. My friend was working the cafeteria in the yard. My captain was up front, and my lieutenant was doing her little thing, walking around. And so we get another inmate, and we'll call her Ashley. Okay, that's not her real name, but that's as close to her real name as I'm going to get. We'll call her Ashley. She comes through the back door. This girl was already a well-known disciplinary problem, so I knew that this was going to be unlike anything else. Like, that other girl might have been a doozy, but this was about to be a tsunami. So they bring Ashley through the door, and automatically I roll my eyes up in my head, because I know this girl is dramatic on a normal day. So I already know this is about to be crazy. Okay, I had on a sweater, I had on my I was hot already, and I just knew this was about to be crazy, and she did not disappoint. So we get her to the back, and we automatically take her to the bathroom, because you know, at this point, this isn't our first rodeo anymore. We already know what to expect. Medical is looking at her, and they're like, yeah, go ahead and strip her, because once again, we got word that she had done the same thing. She had drank the hand sanitizer. So we take her back there, and she's fighting. She's saying all kinds of vulgar things. She's calling us the N-word. She's doing just all types of things, okay? So my lieutenant walks in the bathroom, and she says, F you. The name of my lieutenant. I'm not going to say her name. But she was like, F you, blah, 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 blah. So one of the lieutenants from the YOA section, she goes and pushes her into the wall, because this girl is trying to get physical. So I'm looking at her, she looking at me, I'm looking at her, looking at me, and I'm like, okay, it's about to go down. So we finally get her, we take her clothes off, she's fighting again, she's clawing, she's doing all types of things. She's like, get that B out the bathroom, get that B out the bathroom. So we tell my lieutenant, like, LT, just go in the hallway, because we got it. We don't want this to go the way that she's trying to make it go. You know, she's trying to assault her. Of course, we're not going to let that happen, because it's us and it's her. And she's calling her all types of N-words. She's calling us the N-word. She's calling us B's. We're letting that roll off our back like water on a duck's back, because at this point, we don't have time to play with you. It's time to get off. It's about 5:45 at this point, and we get off at 6. It's time to switch shifts, and you playing games. So we get her clothes. We have to, oh my gosh, y'all, we had to rip this girl's uniform off of her, because she was in that stall, and she was acting a whole complete donkey. So we get those clothes off of her. We make sure there's nothing else on her. She didn't have anything on her, but she was fighting for some reason. So we get her clothes back on her, and the LT from the YOA section gets her handcuffs on her. I take one arm, my friend take the other arm, and the LT is walking behind us. So as we take her to the back to get her down to lockup, we didn't take her through the back down the stairs. We took her down the stairs from the back door. So we would have to actually go through the R&E gate to get her down. We're by the cafeteria, and my LT walks up, and this girl from out of nowhere, she takes her foot and she kicks so high, and she hits my lieutenant right here in the chest. So again, we out there and we taking it to the head, because you did not just kick this woman. She had a big footprint on her white shirt. This is my face, y'all. This was literally my face. Because we didn't have the black uniforms at that point. We had the blue and the white. And she had a big footprint, like a big shoe print right there in the middle of her chest. So we finally had to do the use of force type of deal, because we already see how this is going. She she kicked this woman in her chest. So we get her down there, and once we strip her out to put on her lockup uniform, she won't let us put the clothes on. So the staff that's already down there on lockup, they had the door open, because we radioed down there like, we're about to bring one, go ahead and get a room ready for her, because we're gonna have to push her in there. She's not gonna go in, so it's gonna be a time, we're gonna have to get her in there quickly. This girl was not trying to hear that. So again, I get stuck with the camera. She's on the bench in that room. They're holding her arms, and she's sitting up. She's just incoherent. She's just looking around at everybody. She's spewing out those racial slurs, and I'm recording. And at this point, this girl is making almost pornographic movements. She's doing the utmost. Her legs are open, so I'm trying to record from here on, but she's moving. She's distorting the view of the camera. She's doing so much. So finally, we get to lock her in the room. We go do the use of force report, and I thought that was the end of it. We get back to work that Monday, and my captain, who could not help but criticize every single thing that I ever did in life, she comes to me and she said, Major said, we can't use that recording that you had because you shot a porno. And I'm looking at her, I'm giving her the blank stare like this. Because how did I shoot anything other than what I saw? There was no way I could take the camera off of her, because the whole point of recording the interaction and the altercation is to show what happened. This girl is doing all of this herself. It was 27 of y'all on this one girl, and y'all still let her move around and do what she wanted to do. But somehow it turned out to be my fault. Reason number 2,596,000 why I left SCDC. But off of that, she was like, you shot a porno. We can't use this footage because we got to edit so much of it. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I did my job. I did my part of the war effort. It was what it was. But yeah, y'all, that's just how it turned out. These inmates have found a way to make their own alcohol. You can see that. See how liquid it is? They found a way to get themselves drunk. And I would not advise anybody out there in YouTube land to ever try that. Do not consume that, because it's going to take you to places that you do not want to be. It is not a regular type of drunk. You are a monster on hand sanitizer and salt, okay? But I hope you guys enjoyed that story time. I just wanted to give y'all something to tide y'all over. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it is absolutely true. Inmates have so much talent, and they have so many things that they figure out by just sitting there and thinking, and the way that it travels through the prison system, because it's not just the women that do these things, it's the men as well. So the way these messages are communicated, I'm not even sure. It still blows my mind. But they all do these things. But I had my experience at the Women's Institution of Camille Griffin Graham Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, where these women showed me that there is more than one way to skin a cat. They are not drinking buck anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They are putting salt in cups, adding some hand sanitizer that they undoubtedly are taking from staff, and they are making themselves some cocktails. Okay, so be careful out there. Be vigilant. Keep your eyes open, because you never know what is going on behind those cell doors. But I'm going to go ahead and go. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Thank you so much for coming back to Nike TV. I hope you guys will stick around. I'll be back here in the near future with more Death on the Dirt Road, more Nike Investigates, and more Murder on the Move. I don't know how much more Murder on the Move I'm going to be doing, or how frequently I'm going to be doing that, because it is so difficult to look up cases and find out where things happen and go visit it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. The cases that I did do, they came to mind like immediately, and they were things that I had already known about for quite some time, so that was kind of easy. But I have been doing research trying to figure out some of these cases, even young or old. I mean, they had a situation where they found a baby who had been missing for the better part of 30-something years, but it was so hard to find information on her and to find out the grave site and where she was even living in Lexington that I gave up. But I'm not going to let that defeat me. I am going to go ahead and put my head in the game and try to get some more of that out there for you guys. But let me know how you felt about this story time. We'll be back to the regularly scheduled program sooner than you think. I love you guys, and thank you so much for sticking with me. I came back to say that I got this case today. I think it is the cutest thing, and I did not know that it was a Casetify case. I see sponsorships for Casetify all the time here on YouTube, and now I finally have one for my local flea market of all places. I want to say thank you to my friend, you know who you are, for buying that for me. I think it is absolutely adorable. Check out Casetify. No, this is not sponsored, but Casetify, hit me up, honey, if you want to, you want to put it out there, because I'll get the word out for you. But anyway, bye y'all.